Am I just picking one? I forgot.
No, we're doing...
No. Okay. I'm sorry. Well, there you go. Preparation is the key.
I'll do the numbers. How about this?
Well, and then clue Josh in.
Josh, we're going to be doing Willie Nelson's Red-Headed Stranger from 1975.
Yes,
this comes in at number 351 in the 1970s on Best Ever Albums, number 26 in 1975, number 1,768 of all time. It is on Rolling Stone's list at number 237 of all time, and this is Willie Nelson's highest-rated album on Best Ever Albums.
There you go.
Okay, all right. So I don't know Willie Nelson other than like old Willie Nelson smoking weed, and I mean I think this is obviously like most representative of his probably like peak output. It sounded like typical country to me. I was trying to piece together what kind of made Willie Nelson singular in the country front. Maybe this is just like typical of 70s country. The main thing I thought is these songs are like a minute long. It's like punk country. It's like they sing one song and goes right into the other, and I didn't even know that the song on Spotify had changed because he just keeps going, and there's like a million songs for a 34-minute record. That was wild. And yeah, 15 songs on a 33-minute record. That's a lot. Some of them are like 30 seconds long too. Mm-hmm. He has a great voice, and he matches it and pairs it well with his guitar playing. It's most of the time I picked up it. He's definitely front and center when there's other backing vocalists or musicians. I didn't pick up on them as much. I did notice some harmonizing later on in Can I Sleep in Your Arms. That was kind of a standout though, because none of the other songs have harmonizing. I think my favorite song was I think the better songs on this album are the longer ones, and Blue Eyes Crying in the Wind is probably my favorite song on this album. Just a really nice, he's able to capture that sadness that's in a lot of country songs and longing, and that comes through on that song. Other than that, it flies by. It's enjoyable. It's not something, there wasn't any songs that got stuck in my head in a good way, and I still like things like Johnny Cash more, and I think I even like Dolly Parton more than this. But yeah, it was a solid, another solid album. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I don't know, man. This one didn't connect with me, I have to say. I guess this falls in that outlaw country genre. It's certainly a theme album about like an outlaw, I think he kills his wife in the first song, right? If I remember lyrically, and then it kind of goes from there. I'll be honest, I did not look up exactly what it is, but the vibe I got was that like he killed his wife and then he was on the run for the rest of the album, kind of. Like that seemed to be what I got early, and I was listening to the lyrics a lot because it quickly became clear that the musicianship was roughly the same in the different songs, like variations of a theme, I guess would be what I would say was the musicianship. Not that it's bad, but I don't know if I was picking up a lot of layers in terms of what was going on. It was pretty, in my opinion, boilerplate country. If anybody's going to dig through that, I feel like Matt's going to be the person who's going to be able to challenge me on that, and I look forward to that. But thematically, it's there. As you mentioned, Willie Nelson's voice stands out. You know his voice when you hear it, for sure. I just think for me, it just didn't pop in the way that other singer-songwriter. Some of it is, I look at it and I go, okay, who are genre mates? And Josh mentioned Johnny Cash, which would be on there to some degree. We've covered a little bit of, with that Birds, Sweetheart of the Rodeo. So we got a little bit into the alt country feel. People like Townes Van Zandt, which are around there. Even the Dylan country albums, the Nashville Skyline and John Wesley Harding.
John Prine.
John Prine, exactly. We've covered a lot. They all pop to me a little bit more humor. I think this is sort of more just standard issue, I think. And I can't really explain why. I didn't dislike the album, but I felt it was as disposable. It was a completely disposable album for me in the sense that I forgot it as soon as I heard it, which is not a compliment I can give an album. And I wonder if I listened to it again or in a different context, or maybe if I was listening for it more musically than lyrically, I would connect with it more. But it just left me a little bit flat, if I'm being honest, guys.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't seem like a very complicated album. It's very like song structure, story structure songs and basic guitar work. But what do you think, Matt?
I don't have a terribly different takes than you guys. What stands out to me most in this album is the waltz. It's like 80% of the songs are done in the waltz time frame. Okay. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1. I just kept noticing that over and over again. It's like, oh, another waltz. A lot of the songs are slower paced. It's not as faster, whatever. So the term, somebody said, one of you guys said outlaw country. I don't know to me, when I hear outlaw country, I hear a little bit more, not so much lyrically, but musically, it's a little bit more of kind of like a rock influence within the sound. You're not getting that here at all. These for the most part, these are kind of slower, almost ballad-like songs. I, too, Josh, am not a huge fan of the 40-second long, 30-second long songs. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me. Like it's like, why even, like, there's cool ideas in some of those songs that I would like more if he, made it into a 2.5 minute long song or something like that, so, and they did blend in together, from one song to the next. And before you know it, you're listening to the next track. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting, just not my thing. I prefer different ways to structure albums. So in light of that, I did like the longer songs better. I liked it when he did delve into a little bit more variety. Down Yonder stands out. It's more of a faster paced song. It's kind of like a ragtime song. It's like that's piano rag. It's an instrumental. It's upbeat. It's kind of fun, and it's a departure from a lot of the other sounds that you get in this record. There's some gospel in here too. That's the other thing I picked up on. There's kind of like a spiritual gospel, in addition to the country sounds that you're getting, and some different instrumentation. Like there's some accordion in here, mandolins prominent, some banjo, things like that. Probably the song that I found the most interesting was "Remember Me When the Candlelights Are Gleaming," because to me that was that starts off with country and then it delves into this realm of jazz that I was picking up on in terms of the solos, the piano, the guitar tone. And I was like, it's interesting. He found a way to make a jazz country song. And so that for me was by far the most interesting part of this record. And so I think because of that, I liked the second half better, because some of those different sounds I was getting more towards the second half. I found it interesting that the Time of the Preacher, he's doing a reprise on the third track. Yeah. It's like, let's go right. So I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking concept album, like what's going on here? And I think this is considered a concept album.
It definitely has to be thematically. I mean, he's following this one character around. Yeah. Like it's in the songs, you can tell. In the lyrics. Yeah.
So I like it. I agree. There's other country type albums that we've done that I like. I think John said it pop a little bit more than this does. I think Willie Nelson's strength does lie in his simplicity. His voice is great. And I think it's just a very calming, soothing voice, that fits this genre very, very well. This is kind of a comforting sounding album to me. It's a nice thing to kind of have on the background when you're looking to mix things up a little bit, at least for me, because this isn't the type of music that I'm listening to a lot. But I wouldn't say that I loved it, or it was like, I think you said it was kind of forgettable at the end of it, and I would kind of agree with it, because a lot of this does run together as being fine. I think that's a word that I would use to describe this album as fine. But why it's number 237 of all time, it seems a little bit hyperbolic to me. And maybe there's some sort of influence, if there's a story behind this, something that Willie Nelson was going through, or how, I don't know if
it's a true story.
Yeah, maybe. Like he shot a woman after she tried to steal his horse. I did pick up on that. But like, I don't get like why it would be so highly regarded. I get why Willie Nelson clearly has been around for many, many years, and he's just a very likable person, very laid back, very respected, and just he's a great songwriter. I mean, before Willie Nelson, I did remember a little bit of this on the Ken Burns documentary on country music, and he's been around for a while. Back when he started, he was wearing like suits and it was clean cut and looks nothing like he does today. And he was a big songwriter. He was like that was his thing. He would write songs for other people, if I'm not mistaken. That's how I think he started off, and he was really well regarded. And then eventually he turned and started, actually making his own albums. So that was kind of a turn for him.
So he was 42 when he made this album, guys. Jeez. By the way, and
yeah, he's always seemed
right
old
now,
to me,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
I had no concept of him as being 88 years old. So
yeah.
So.
So I appreciate that for all this, and I didn't know any of these songs, right? Willie Nelson, I can't say I'm terrible. I've been familiar with him forever. Like, I've always known about him. Don't know a ton of his songs, but I know On the Road Again. You know what I mean? Like, that's
right.
Okay. Willie, yeah. But this was good. Little bit overrated perhaps in the rankings there, but Willie Nelson overall as an artist is awesome. Like, he's just like a very hard person to dislike. But I can't say that I would be picking. There's other country that I would probably listen to that's more interesting to me.
Because I feel the same way as you, Matt. I know him as a personality more so than I know him as a musician. And right off the top of our heads, can you think of anybody else that's like that for you? Like, them as like an entity, but you couldn't really name any of their songs. Because I was trying to think if there's anybody else like that, and I was thinking to myself, like, well, Barry Manilow. But I can name 2 like Barry Manilow songs immediately, and I'm trying to think, like, who else do I know as well as I know Willie Nelson without really knowing any of his music? Like,
I might have to think on that.
I mean, definitely not country. I can't think of another country act that I know that's like personality, not music.
Where you couldn't name like one song by them. Yeah, I'm trying to think like who would fall in that category for me, and it's hard for me to even think of somebody that falls in that category in like rock music or R&B or hip hop or something.
Yeah. I just wonder if like Willie Nelson was like really popular when this album came out. Like we talk so much about rock music, and I get a sense we know either from past experience or just talking like who was the most popular acts at the time, and I don't know that for country ever. Like outside of Garth Brooks in the 90s, right?
Like George Jones was probably, somebody like around here.
Well,
Dolly
like
Parton,
Waylon
Jennings. For sure. Waylon Jennings.
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash. I don't know how popular.
Like Linda Ronstadt was like almost country, but like those top draws, those people that got played on the radio a lot, I don't know who those were in the 70s.
Like the big, but there's a difference. Like Johnny Cash had crossover appeal, right? Johnny Cash did cross over to more of a mainstream rock or kind of. But then there's like the artists that would do straight up like this is country music, and like the what is the Grand Ole Opry stuff? That's like so. Yeah, that's a good question, because that's certainly not a pool of artists that I'm terribly familiar with. But George Jones, like Hank Williams, but he's older. Hank Williams was pre Willie Nelson. But I do know that about Willie Nelson. He's been in the game for a while, and he was known as a songwriter prior to being an actual singer-songwriter.
You gotta love when the bio, as I'm checking it right now, says born in the first year of the Depression. So that's how you know you've been around for a while, because that was a long fucking time ago.
Yes, it was
the first year of the Depression. So
he might have been in World War II.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Nah, he'd be too young for that. But yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, but still, he could have been in and been out of the army by Korea. So. All right. Well, Willie Nelson, I don't know if I can recommend this one, but I like you, Willie Nelson, a lot. I just don't know if I love your album as much as I like you as a human, like a personality, character. Right. Mm-hmm. So, final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've almost already forgotten the album, so
I give it a thumbs in the middle. It's not breaking any ground or anything, but it's a pleasant listen, and if you like country at all, it's a nice record to kind of put on in the background, but. It's a simple album, I would say.
What does Rolling Stone say about this album? Now I'm curious. what the blurb is.
Oh,
Probably something like a quintessential American classic. Willie Nelson is I'm thinking like Rolling Stones writing, you know.
what'd I say it was? It was
237, I think.
237. It says written on a drive home from a Colorado ski trip. The title track set the tone for a riveting, heartfelt, multi-track tale of murder and infidelity.
Oh, there you go.
The spare sound was a sharp contrast to the guised-up country of the time, but it still became Oh, did I say Gus? Oh yeah, Gussie. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Josh. I'm reading sideways here, kind of. But it still became one of Nelson's biggest records.
Okay.
So I guess the country was bigger at the time.
So it's like Willie Nelson unplugged.
Yeah. Did they say spare? Was that the word they used? Because that is a good description of this album.
Yep.
Spare. Sparse would be another one, but not like Brian Eno sparse.
Austere.
Like austere. Yes, yeah. No frills. Yeah, you can just keep going. But yeah, so. All right, so we'll put that one to bed.